The standards for this Toronto Raptors team have dropped so low that it's almost frightening, and with 20 games remaining, there's an impossible decision to make about whether or not it's right to push for the playoffs or focus on the draft. In today's video, we're going to really answer the question as to what this team should be doing. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. This is Amateur Hour Sports, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to Toronto Raptors content. We do videos like this where we do news coverage and analysis. We also do live stream watch parties for Raptors games. So if you want to stay up to date with all this great Raptors content, subscribe to the channel, and you're getting us ready for that 17,000 sub giveaway with 2 Scottie Barnes jersey. Also, if you enjoy this one along the way, be sure to hit that like button. But it's not going to be the most friendly or fun of topics today when it comes to the Toronto Raptors, because the team has really struggled since that 3-game win streak out of the All-Star break. It kind of gave fans a bit of a false sense of hope about where this team was heading. Quickly came back down to earth with 3 losses and 4 at home following that 3-game win streak, and now with Scottie Barnes potentially missing the rest of the season with injury and Jakob Poeltl missing a good amount of time with injury, we really need to have a serious discussion about what the right direction is for this team, because many fans, as we asked last week on the channel, still want this team to push and try and make the playoffs. This poll was sent out before Scottie Barnes was injured and right after the 3-game win streak, so it'll be interesting to see how this could change and how this might reflect in a new poll that comes out. But Raptors fans were keen on trying to get into that play-in tournament position. Is that really the right move for this Raptors team? But as I said in the intro here, the standards for this team have dropped incredibly low here. The Raptors just suffered the worst home loss in franchise history with their 41-point loss to the New Orleans Pelicans. Yes, a 139-98 loss at home. Again, the single worst loss at home in franchise history. It was also a top 5 biggest margin of defeat in franchise history to go along with it. And naturally, I understand the current situation for the Raptors. The team is not very good. Scottie Barnes was out injured. Jakob Poeltl was out injured. Also, Bruce Brown was out injured for this basketball game here. And the Pelicans, even when the Raptors are healthy, are just a nightmare matchup. The Raptors have struggled so immensely this season against teams that have size. Well, the New Orleans Pelicans have a lot of size, and they also have a lot of shooting. Again, with the understanding players were out injured, with the understanding that it's a bad matchup for the Raptors, I don't think the standard for this organization should drop so low that fans just merely brush it off. 41-point loss, worst loss in franchise history at home, top 5 worst loss in franchise history. No problem. Guys were injured. It was a bad matchup. It is what it is. Me personally, I feel like I'm going insane here because this is not an acceptable loss to happen here. This is a completely unacceptable loss. Losing by 41 points, period, is unacceptable. Doing so at home makes it even worse. And 14 minutes into this basketball game, the Raptors were already down by 20 points and the game was done. Personally, I feel like that when there were NBA players present, which they were for this game for the Raptors, and it felt as though this team was very ill-equipped to play against the Pelicans. They were underprepared. They had a hot start from 3 in this game, which kept them relevant in the early goings, actually put them up 19-14 at one stage, but it really felt as though the Raptors had no game plan whatsoever for this one. I kind of knew offense was going to struggle, but defensively, okay, we know the Pelicans are great at the rim. We know they have shooters. So as a team, you should probably sacrifice one and defend the other. Take away the rim, sacrifice a 3-ball game, or you can take away the kickouts and sacrifice the points to the rim. Probably the better way to go about it. What the Raptors did in this one was neither. They allowed everything at the rim, and they allowed shooters to get open consistently for 3 and got completely torched by Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. The Raptors were terrible. They're going to get nothing out of the game like this where they lose by 41 points. And personally, I don't feel as though that we should brush a game off like this. The standards have gone so low for this team that 41-point loss, the worst home loss in franchise history. This team has been bad for a lot of its history. They have played a lot of really good teams when they were really bad teams. Yet in the complete history of the NBA, the Raptors have not lost to this level at home. Now, granted, the pace of games, the scoring in games has elevated so much since the Raptors' inception and founding season in 1995. But even still, a 41-point loss should be completely unacceptable. There really is never an excuse to lose a game by this manner. Maybe one excuse was on Boxing Day in 2021, the COVID season, where the Raptors literally only had 4 NBA players, none of which were starters, and they essentially introduced themselves for the first time to 4 G League players who they met in the locker room in pregame before a game against the Cavaliers where they lose 144-99. It was a COVID-ravaged team that had Delano Banton, Yuta Watanabe, Svi Mykhailiuk, Chris Boucher, and 4 G League players. That's probably an excuse to lose like that, but I don't think that same sort of excuse can apply to the Raptors in this one. Lineups were utilized incorrectly. The bench lineup in the first half contained 5 players who could not play defense. RJ Barrett, DJ Carton, Grady Dick, Jordan Nwora, Jonte Porter. I get that they don't have a lot to work with here, but you got to stagger minutes. You can't have a 5-man unit that can't play defense, and in the 5-minute spell they were on the court together, they only managed 4 points. How did that lineup even last for 5 minutes? So a lot of decision-making endeavors that went into this game led to the loss. Yes, the team got outplayed. The Pelicans had a great game. Yes, the Raptors are undermanned 100%. But along the way, there are certain things that you can bring to the game to mitigate the risk of losing by 41 points. And once again, I feel like I'm going insane that I feel so isolated in my opinion that a result like this is not acceptable for a team to have no matter what state they are. If they have NBA players in the game, in an NBA game, you should not lose by this much. And it should be treated as a failure to have lost by this much and not just brushed aside as, whatever, things happen. Not going to be the case for me. So looking at this team, yes, they're not going to have a matchup like this on any given night when they're playing a game. There's going to be better matchups, and there are better matchups ahead for this Toronto Raptors team 100%. But looking at the NBA standings, is it more beneficial to continue to push to win games, or is it more beneficial to sit back and focus on the draft? Well, there are pros and cons, as we spoke about in a video last week, but even from the pros and cons previously before the Scottie Barnes injury, my mindset was completely on the team going in the backwards direction here, focusing on that NBA draft. That was my opinion pre-injury to Scottie Barnes. The fact that he is likely going to miss the rest of the season gives me even more confidence towards that decision. The Raptors still have a mountain to climb to get into that final play-in tournament position, and I completely agree, getting these reps for the team for the rest of the season, maybe even getting that play-in tournament experience, somehow maybe even getting playoff experience alongside it if they actually do make the playoffs as the 8 seed through the play-in tournament. I recognize that sort of experience for these players, especially the young players and the young core on this team, is going to be beneficial. But there is such a mountain to climb here for this team that it feels as though going in the opposite direction, maybe even focusing on giving some extra additional young players, some more reps, some more minutes, just to see what you have with those guys for the next 20 games, the last 20 games of the season. To me, that can almost be seen as something that is beneficial to the team as well. But I understand, even associated with tanking, moving towards trying to be a bottom 6 team, that you still may not actually keep your top 6 protected pick that was sent out to the San Antonio Spurs. 100% I recognize that. But the mere chance, and a 45% chance at that, if the Raptors are a bottom 6 team, of keeping their pick, the chance of having a player of that caliber coming into the team right away and supplementing the core right away for next season is such a huge prize and a huge draw that it is, in my opinion, the right move for this team to make. If they want to push the playoffs, they want to get that experience out of it, I think there's a lot of great things that can come out of that as well, 100%. I recognize that. Mainly, we're hoping for those additional reps for Scottie Barnes. Obviously, it falls over into guys like RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Grady Dick, and more. Understandably so. There are positives to take away from a team that wants to just continue to try and win, build those right habits, build that culture. But I think back to that Tampa season where nothing was being built for the second half of the season once the trade deadline was gone and dusted. Nothing was built for that team for the rest of the season. But it was all worth it because it all culminates into a little bit of lottery luck that lands you the prize, the centerpiece of the team going forward, Scottie Barnes. So having the opportunity to try and repeat that this season is a massive draw. Because if they keep the pick this season, it is guaranteed to be a top 6 pick. If it doesn't pan out, you go in the opposite direction, doesn't pan out, you don't have your pick this season, you have this safety net. Okay, the pick conveys, now you have your pick for next season. You know where you stand. That is your own pick. How bad you are, how good you are, that is your own pick. You have a complete understanding as such. This season, you can gamble, and if you do get the pick, it's top 6. If not, you have the pick for next season, as I said. I can forgive this team for going in that opposite direction and not getting the pick, but really trying to find another key piece to the team going forward through the draft. Because as much as everybody wants to call it a weak draft, you look at the guys near the top of the draft, there is a ton of talent up near the top of that draft that could really supplement this core going forward. Once again, on my stance, there's benefits to try and make the play-in tournament, but to me, the benefits of going in the opposite direction for that pick outweigh the benefits of trying to move forward, especially with Scottie Barnes likely to miss the rest of the season with that hand injury. Perhaps he could come back for the last couple of games and perhaps would be back for the play-in tournament and for the playoffs, but that does remain to be seen. We don't know and don't quite understand the full extent of the injury as of yet. One thing that we have to also consider in falling back is, okay, this Raptors team still has some decent players. The Memphis Grizzlies have gone into full tank mode. That's the team you would have to catch if you go in the opposite direction and start tanking. I recognize the difficulties in doing that, but again, going to go back on my stance on talking about, well, you can start to play players a little bit extra minutes. For instance, this Pelicans game, which was done after 14 minutes. Well, after 36 minutes, probably don't need to start the fourth quarter with your starters on the floor. Probably could have just gone to, Jamias Ramsey, Mahamadou Gay, even more minutes for Freeman Liberty to start the fourth quarter, just to get a bigger glimpse of what they can bring to this team, just to see what you have with these players, and perhaps something can work out going forward. There's a player you like, perhaps he can be part of the roster for next season, get him more acclimated towards the NBA. So I don't think you need to be egregious with this tank here, but hey, if a guy's not feeling his best, why risk injury? If it's the second night of a back-to-back, RJ Barrett been dealing with knee issues, why risk any sort of injury here? Give the extra guys some more minutes. Give Grady Dick, load up his minutes even more. Further guys on the bench like Ochai Agbaji, load up his minutes even more. It doesn't need to be an absolutely egregious tank job, but certain things along the way to prioritize development could help this team move in that opposite direction. I know it's incredibly difficult to necessarily root against the Raptors. I always find myself struggling when I'm watching games I can't cheer for this team to lose. I still want this team to win on any given night. But just the possibility of getting that blue chip piece for the team going forward in the draft, that big prize is a huge draw for me to say that's the right move for the team. If you disagree, though, I completely understand in trying to move towards a play-in tournament, build those good habits, build those valuable reps, but it does not outweigh the possibility, just even the possibility of 45% chance potentially at a top 6 pick in this upcoming NBA draft. And games like this, where they lose to the Pelicans by 41 points, reaffirm my stance on the quality of this team and where it really should be going for the rest of the season. But do you agree? Do you disagree? Hopefully, if you disagree, you see my side of my point of view here, and perhaps you can convey your point of view in the comments down below. If you agree with me, then let me know why. Give it everything in the comments down below. That's all for me for today. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more Raptors content, and get yourself ready for that 17,000 sub giveaway. Join the amateur army today. I'll see you next time for another video.